Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Dealer, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 10. I've been on a bit of a losing streak. Since I'm already Gold 3, I decided to go ahead and just stick with the single target box to see what we can make and put together. It's definitely a work in progress. As of right now, Iron Blood Commander here is 6 stars, Sylvaria is 5 stars, and Alicia is 4 stars. Compared to last video, the only difference to the box I was showing off last time was I swapped out Angelina for Pirotess, because why not? As for the losses, I was tempted to show some of them, but honestly they weren't really much. It was mostly me just complaining about Werner. I don't like Werner at all. I don't like his stupid mystery stance mechanic. I never like any mechanic. Well, I never like a strategy game where data is hidden from you, which unfortunately this game does have quite a bit of. It's gotten better PvE wise, but PvP wise it's still pretty bad. Like, I don't know what sort of gear some people have equipped. You can try to infer based off certain stat increases, but that's about all you can do. And Werner is just an expansion on that with his stupid stances. The fact that he can counter, the fact that his riposte stance is so strong that he can literally kill cavalry even with infantry troops is a bit much, especially for an quote-unquote assassin character. So enough of that though. As for my opponent, this opponent was kind of nice. Said hello and all that. Kind of unique box. I will say for the during my losing streak and fighting in Gold 3, I've been seeing a lot more competitive boxes. I've also seen a lot more boxes actually use characters like Iron Blood Commander, which is kind of neat. And besides that, the struggle's been trying to figure out exactly what sort of things I want to ban first as this single target box, because it kind of varies. My default was to ban Wet Ham, but to be honest, Wet Ham is usually not that dangerous if I have Rosen Seal, at least in my opinion. Well, at least I'm guessing right now. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So if they let me have Rosen Seal first, which in this case my opponent did, I was not going to ban Wet Ham first in this case. As for the box itself, it's a tank push. It's got 2 tanks, 4 healers, definitely some faces we haven't seen in a while, like Marielle, Patsier. I think this is the first time I've ever gone up against a Michelle. We don't usually see, is it Edda? I can't remember how to, oh, Emma, that's her name. See the Prince of the Blood Moon, or whatever his name is, I never remember it, Vincent. See an SP Lana. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a mix of stuff I haven't seen in a while. So they banned my Kyura, I banned their Lucretia because I didn't want to deal with the long range and self-res. I take my Rosen Seal. They banned my 1 tank and got rid of my faction buffer. They take their Hilda, which is annoying. Out of all the tanks, Hilda is the most annoying because she can negate crits. I went ahead and got rid of Florentia and Michelle since both of them can be buffed by Hilda, and that also limit the act against and other manipulations. I went ahead and take Iron Blood. They go ahead and get rid of my long legs and long range. They take Marielle. So at this point, I went ahead and got rid of both Lana and Rosen Seal. I did not want to deal with any of Rosen Seal's crystal healing or debuff negation. And then Lana is pretty dangerous. If she's able to be immune to debuffs, her troops can keep her alive with a self-res, and then she just spams AoE over and over again. I went ahead and took Subame. It feels like it's been a while since I've used her, since we were AoE for a while. They banned my Sylvaria and my Helena. I was actually kind of surprised they'd ban my Helena, because the Helena is not that dangerous because of Hilda. They take Emma. At this point I went ahead and banned their long legs, so I got rid of both Wet Ham and Vincent. So now pretty much everything they have is short-legged, which is nice. Patsier is not a danger to me. Patsier doesn't even get the mobility buff yet, because Patsier's exclusive helmet only gives mobility buff if she's against any a male character, which my box doesn't have any. I take Pirotess. At this point, I just wanted more killers, so I brought in Pirotess. I wasn't completely comfortable using Alicia. Alicia doesn't actually have any assassination capabilities per se. She could potentially be a tank buster, but at 4 stars, I wasn't comfortable doing anything with that. At 5 stars, she gets an additional mobility movement negation, and she goes up like another 8% damage or attack. I can't remember which. In any case, they banned my Alicia and my Luna. I was a little surprised. Luna has actually been not too great for this box, simply because her faction buff was really useful in the other AoE box, because I had a decent amount of Princess faction, and then the Princess faction buff from Luna actually does additional fixed damage, which is really nice. They take Bozel. At this point, I go ahead and got rid of Lycoris and whatever his name is, Blood Moon Prince or whatever. And then that leaves Petseer and Christiane. So either another tank or another possible DPS/AoE. And I take Sissy White. Kaya's kind of just there. Since I always tend to pick Iron Blood and Rosen Seal first, Kaya is usually not as useful, but there's always that chance I may, get Iron Blood banned or something like that, in which case having additional mobility through her is useful. In any case, my opponent takes Christiane, so it's essentially a 2 tank, 1 healer push here. Actually, technically 2 healers if you go Marielle without attacking for a while. And I'm going 2 healers and 3 DPS. Alright, didn't proc my exclusive, so only 2 coins for the first round. Sissy White, Forest Priest with Mass Attack and Business Strategy, 3C. Iron Blood Commander here. I just went straight up attack skills. The only bad part about not taking an additional Mass Attack is Mass Attack does have a dead turn because it has a 3-turn cooldown. Tsubame is pretty standard. If you've seen any of my older matches, you know how I use her. So Instant Flash, Killing Machine, Quick Step with Faceless. Pirotess is Force Knight Elves with Quick Step, Dark Thorn, and Sly Stride. And then Rosen Seal, I didn't need the faction buff really, because the only other person that could be faction buff is Iron Blood Commander. So I went ahead and just brought Ice Dragon Breath for a little extra mobility down and nonsense like that. It's not going to be too big of a deal because Emma, sorry, I keep calling her Emma, it's Elma. So Elma here has her 3C, Heal, and Light Mirror, and it's going Fighting Monks. Christiane brought Justice, so she does have an attack skill. She did go Infantry Troops. Hilda's going to be dangerous because I did bring Infantry, and she's going Cav Troops, and then she's going to go probably switch to Cav, she'll switch her class to Cavalry probably, and that's going to pretty much nullify Iron Blood Commander pretty thoroughly. Bozel brought in faction buff, has Crystal Warlocks. One thing to note is he does have a skill buff, which means he probably has a badge of some sort. Probably the one that negates fixed damage. And since Crystal Warlock and Bozel are both mages, that means Twilight Star will not be able to bypass it. Besides that, he has Seal and of course his 3C. And then Marielle went Redeemers, which makes her pretty annoying because she can self-res, but Redeemers are actually not very good for attacking. So it actually makes Marielle a little less dangerous attacking-wise. Besides that, she's standard kit, Enduring Faith, God King's Aegis with 3C. And then Hilda, Templar Knights, of course, and then her class change ability, and then her faction buff. Actually, yeah, I believe that's her 3C, yeah. Anyway, enough of that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So it took me a while to kind of figure out what I was going to do for my first turn, because I need to... Every action is kind of key here, and I need to position people to be as big of a threat as possible. Because essentially what's going to happen is the tank's going to move forward, Bozel's going to move forward, and then next turn, Bozel and Marielle are just going to wreck me. So I have to make this first turn count. So heavy strike formation. Go ahead and get their mobility up. Now the attack formation is actually useful now because I am using single target, so the soldier plus 25% attack is actually pretty helpful. Also, with Iron Blood now being 6 stars, her cooldown for her formations is now down to 2 turns instead of 3, which is pretty good. It pretty much ensures that as long as she can get somebody within the correct formation, she can keep the stance up as long as possible, as long as she wants. Alright, Christiane moved forward and did faction buff. I went ahead and moved forward with Tsubame. She, as I mentioned before, my opponent is extremely short-legged. The only person that has any additional extra movement is Marielle, using her Enduring Faith. Obviously, Breeze will throw Breeze and Tenyo buffs can definitely throw a wrench in things, but there's not much I could do about that. Speaking of, there's the Breeze buff. So I move in, do mass attack. And I go ahead and bring in a Lancer Mercenary so I can actually guard. So Mariel can bypass guard, but only if her first 3C attack hits guard first, and then the follow-up becomes bypass guard, I believe. It's not too big of a deal because obviously elite mercenary with no troops can only take so much. But yeah, with Mariel here, the Breeze really did mess me up a bit because she can literally go to here and then do her Enduring Faith, which will give her a move again and trigger Tsubame's stealth. In which case, then she can just literally attack the elite mercenary and then follow up wherever she wants. Besides that, I'm just kind of seeing what my range is right now. Okay. So, my rebirth, so no class change yet. Gonna go ahead and do Miracle. And then Bozel moves into Forest. So at this point, I need to try to kill something because obviously one or the other. I'm gonna have an initiative next round. I'm pretty confident I can kill Bozel with Tsubame. I'm not sure I can do it with Pirotess. I think in hindsight I probably could, but it is risky with the Forest tile and the Crystal Warlocks reflecting physical damage. Mariel gets damage reduction reduced by 25%. She doesn't seem to have a badge, so she probably doesn't have any immunity to fixed damage. So I can break the 100% buff for Holy. But the other issue, of course, is Hilda. Whoever I attack, I'm not going to be able to crit because of her talent. So there's not much I could do. So one thing I am able to do is Pirotess does apply a strong debuff as long as her skill is higher, which of course her skill's plenty high. So I can actually apply debuff to Mariel, and that will make it so the Redeemers won't self-res. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and quick step, which will get my skill up to like 700 something. Did do King's Crown buff, which is slightly stronger than Miracle, but not by much. It's like by 5%. So Dark Thorn. So yeah, not too bad, but not enough to kill. And unfortunately that means I'm just kind of stuck out there. Elma here is going to go ahead and do 3C, which unfortunately is going to get rid of the debuff. Summons her staff. The staff has an aura that reduces magic damage by like 20% or something like that. And then it also has an aura that makes it so everyone's immune to heal negation. It also has the ability to increase heal effects by 20%, so the staff is just kind of annoying. So with that in mind, I'm kind of in trouble. I have to kill something, like now. Now the biggest issue right now is Pirotess can't bypass guard anymore because I used her 3C already. Tsubame, I won't be able to kill Mariel because Mariel has the res again. Hilda has already popped her Bloody Revenge, so my only target's Bozel, and I'm pretty confident that Tsubame can kill Bozel. That's what I've used her for in the past. The issue is afterwards, I can't actually get away from Mariel. I'll be able to re-stealth, but Mariel will just go next to me and do Enduring Faith. So I'm pretty much going to have to do a trade here. So I go to Forest for, I don't really remember. So Killing Machine here. Yeah, plenty of damage. So I could have attacked in melee, but I never remember what all the buffs for assassins are, but I assumed they had something for Forest. I know archers do. So I went ahead and went to Forest just for additional help and to get away from Mariel, hopefully. So with that, we kill Bozel. Being here also did reduce my buff a little bit. my talent could go up to 3 times, but the range is only 3 blocks. So I was only getting 16% attack and skill instead of 24%. But it was more than enough to kill Bozil, so that's all that matters. So that's taken care of. So I fall back, Killing Machine, Sunken Stealth, doesn't matter. Enduring Faith right next to her. Highest Grace procs, but doesn't really matter. Trade blows here. And then here comes the follow-up. So this was key. The strong debuff that was applied right then and there was minus 20% attack. So yeah, minus 20% attack and intelligence. If that had not, if the debuff I had applied was something else that didn't reduce damage, Pirotess would have died there. So with that, the fact that Pirotess survived, I mean, Pirotess had no defensive buffs. She was out in the open. She doesn't have last rites or anything like that. So to be able to just take a raw hit like that from God King's Wrath there was pretty amazing. So I was really lucky there, but I was pretty happy just to see Pirotess just survive a hit like that. That was crazy. So at this point, their main killer is Marielle. They have 2 tanks though, and both of them are pretty. They can do enough damage if they get in range, but it's all physical. I do have a semi-tank with the mercenary, and every turn that passes, the cooldown for summoning a mercenary will obviously get refreshed. So if I do lose the mercenary and I have Sissy White's turn active, I can just resummon it. So yeah, they're just closing in at this point. I fell back. The mist is closing in, but I have enough breathing room to kind of buy myself some time. Because right now what I need is just time. I need to get Pirotess's 3C back up, and then find something to kill, essentially. So right now Pirotess, on her turn, she can quick step and then do Dark Thorn. And I have 8 coins now, so I can definitely do her 5 coin act again with plus 30% attack. So that will be pretty helpful. So I can definitely I have a ton of options as far as what I can kill if I want to. So went and moved in. At this point my guard has worn off, which is unfortunate. Went ahead and did 3C here. And then obviously my opponent saw what was coming, went ahead and applied a mirror to Marielle, so I can't actually apply a debuff to Marielle, it just gets reflected back. So with that in mind, I have to figure out something else instead. So with that in mind, I went ahead and just go ahead and test Christiane's defenses. So 3C. So yeah, almost a kill, not too bad. Then I heal up. Sorry about that, started choking. Alright. So yeah, the 3C also applies a permanent debuff that makes it so soldiers can't be healing is reduced by 80%. It doesn't really matter too much, but it is something that kind of weakens her a bit further. Also, I got rid of a bunch of buffs, which is always helpful. Obviously, I could have attacked Hilda and not worry about counterattack, but Hilda's right now in Cav class with Cav troops, and these Cav actually have plus 45 M defense as well, so they're pretty tanky against magic. And then my troops, of course, are infantry. But yeah, she falls back, and then I move in. So my opponent's gonna go first. Yep. Applies full bloom. Not sure why. I think it was just to get the buff there. But as you can see, instead of going after Marielle, I go straight for Elma. And my thought process was I managed to survive Marielle's skill. And Marielle's skills are currently all on cooldown, and she has no buff. So I thought, if there's going to be any chance of me surviving Marielle's attack again, it'll be now. So I went ahead and went straight for Elma. It will pretty much nullify the staff as well, because the staff can only teleport to the caster, and the caster is now dead. So that staff is just stuck there now. Now, Christiane used her last Blossom, and now she has +5 to all stats, essentially, and she now counterattack. When she counterattacks, she does extra damage, and she strikes first. So that's important to note. So I fall back into Forest. And then we got this going. So yeah, got critted, but it wasn't enough. It was a normal attack. I survived it. So here I make a mistake. I decided to attack with the Ice Dragon Breath. I should have moved up with my Elite Mercenary and guarded, because I considered doing that, and I was like, well, maybe Iron Blood Command could survive a hit. This is a Cav troop with Hilda with full buffs. Even with a normal attack, my defenses are actually really, really bad. And so, yeah, just absolutely shreds her. So I lost my other DPS. If I had just moved in, I would have been able to use her to just literally attack anybody. So yeah, a little bit of trouble now. Holy healing, not a big deal. I'm at maxed out coins here. I should have done the crystal healing down one so it hits Sissy White, but I was more just concerned keeping Pirotess alive. And at this point, we're kind of in a similar situation as before. We're trying to wait for Pirotess. So I moved down here. I was planning on going after the staff next, and then falling back with the extra 3 move. But I didn't realize that Christiane's mobility debuff was from the Ice Dragon Breath got removed with the Holy Healing, it looks like. Yeah, it dispels 1 debuff. So once I realized that, I was like, oh, actually I can't attack. So I went ahead and just fell back. It did cycle cooldowns, but it also cycled my attack buff, which is not great. Faction buff back up. Go ahead and do heal. Alright. So Mariel's going to try to kill my Spear Infantry. Surprisingly survives. Does some damage in return. So at this point, I was like, you know what? Let's see how well we do against Christiane. We have no buffs, but we do have we have a skill buff. Do Daybreak. Managed to kill. Now something to note is Christiane does get first strike, but if I attack while in Forest using Forest Night Elves, Pirotess also gets first strike. So what happens then is the first strikes negate, and so they both just hit each other. Alright, so took care of that. Got rid of one of Christiane's self-reses. Hilda's going to go ahead and deal with this annoying tank. Even with block, it's not going to be enough. Does a little bit of extra damage. And then at this point, get ourselves a full heal and act again. And then re-summon the Lancer and then reapply its guard buff again. So Enduring Faith is going to heal her up a little bit. So block triggers. Got King's Wrath. But that's not going to be enough, unfortunately, so there goes that. Gets healed up some more. So I moved down just to protect Pirotess. Because I have to keep Pirotess alive. She's my main damage dealer. So yeah, I moved down. Christiane currently has a mobility debuff from, I guess it was probably when I attacked. And as long as I can keep Pirotess safe, I'm fine with just tanking with Rose and CL here. So yeah, Justice here. Kills the Shrine Maidens, but nullifies the damage to her. And then I move all the way down here. I do apply a debuff. I don't know what debuff was applied. I did proc the armor, but even with that damage reduction, it wasn't not enough to survive. And I went down here because I want to get out of range of everyone else. Like I said, the goal is to keep Pirotess alive. Now what's kind of funny is despite the fact I killed Elma, the staff is still a separate turn. and that's actually been giving me turn advantage for the upcoming turn, which is great. And the staff can't do anything; it's out of range, and it can't move. So I'm not entirely sure why Hilda went after Sissy White instead of going after Rosenseal here. Rosenseal's Shrine Maidens were not 100%, so it would have done a lot more damage to her. Also, the Shrine Maidens are nowhere near as tanky. Sissy White actually has really bulky troops because her talent literally buffs all of her troop stats by 20% except for HP. And she was at full HP. Obviously, the Ragnarok negated the 100% buff, but even then, it was nearly full HP. So I don't know exactly the plan here. Speaking of not having a plan, I attacked Rosenseal for some reason, but that was not a good trade at all. Yeah, it was not a great trade. If I was going to attack, I should have attacked into Christiane, so Hilda guarded instead. But even then, I don't think I had that option. Yeah, right now her guard is down, so yeah, not much I can do about it. But despite that, Christiane just moves in and attacks Sissy White again. I'm guessing they're trying to stop her from summoning another mercenary. So I went and moved up. Again, I'm in forest, so the first strikes are negated, and then I managed to kill her and then run back down. So just to give you an idea, I'm just outside of Hilda's range. Moving up also would have worked because of the cavalry and the forest there. So yeah, staff can't do anything, it's just stuck. So at this point I move down. So if Hilda wants to attack Pirotess, she has to go into the mist. She doesn't. She goes after Sissy White again. I will point out this is without faction buffs, so I don't have any defensive buffs or anything like that. And with that, my opponent just gives up. So yeah, crazy battle. I was really lucky I survived the first Marielle hit. The other ones weren't too bad. The normal hit that went after Pirotess for Marielle, the debuff that was applied was the 30% magic defense buff debuff, which obviously doesn't do anything because my magic dealers were already dead or occupied. But yeah, Pirotess did work. I was really, really impressed with how that went. I'm very glad I built her up. She's surprising. Even though she does self-damage to herself and makes it so you can't use last rites, she's able to endure. Like, that entire fight, I didn't really have any defensive buffs besides whatever 10 you decided to throw at me sometimes. So, yeah, honestly, crazy match. I'll probably be looking at further crazy and hellacious matches in the future because I'm in Gold 3 now, and obviously the you kind of get the full melting pot down here because this is where a lot of people tend to stop. Also, I noticed this character's banner was I think it had season 9 or whatever, so I think she was a prior Langrisser rank character. In any case, as for the formation, I've already made the adjustment, but I dropped Luna. We don't have too many fancy options to take advantage of. As for assassins, we have Farrakha, which honestly, even with Faceless, she just doesn't do enough, to be honest. She can do some cheeky things with maneuver, but if you're going up against Hilda, which I tend to be, that gets negated pretty easily. I mean, at best, you can try to get her in. The other issue is she's short-legged, so all you could really hope for is to get within 3 range, use maneuver, and then get closer, and then assassinate whatever you're trying to assassinate. But she doesn't. She gets an attack buff when she transforms, and that's it. So outside of that, she doesn't. She's very limited on her options. And her stats are just not that great. I mean, obviously she's an SR, but even for SR standards, she doesn't do very well. Lisa's another assassin that can also be a healer if need be, as well as other roles. Issue, of course, is my Lisa is only 3 stars, and the other thing is her talent tends to revolve around being in certain terrain as well, so there's a lot of issues. I will consider using her in the future once she actually goes up in star ranks. Which, I mean, my spare SR tokens are going to be going to her anyway, just because I don't have anyone else to... there's no other SRs for me to upgrade. But for right now, she's not really viable. Toa technically can guard bypass, but it requires a faction buff, and at this point I don't rely on faction buffs. Angelina can potentially do some shenanigans with her 3C, but against Hilda it gets nullified, and it's pretty... And even Rosen CL can give her a lot of trouble just because of the after healing from the crystal heals. So it's a little bit limited. Suzette technically is an assassin. She does have access to her post. She can even provide some teleport shenanigans with her exclusive weapon. But beyond that, she's short-legged. Like, she even has shorter range than Farrakhan. It's pretty awful. So it's not something I want to rely on. Marielle, of course, can do one assassination if she can attack into guard, and then follow it up. But it's pretty iffy, and using her without a faction buff is kind of rough because she goes through her buffs really quickly, which is a little unfortunate. So if you're someone that relies on mass attack like I do, Marielle ends up having her attack buff for the first attack, but not for the one that matters, because you usually will do your move again, which will eat up a buff, attack into guard, which will eat up the rest of the buff, and then you have no buffs as you attack for the third time with the bypass card, so it just doesn't work out. Charlinka is always interesting, but she has a lot of stipulations for her mechanics. Enemies have to be close together. She has to teleport first. Her guard bypass doesn't work if she's near other allies. And against other assassins, she tends to actually get killed first because assassins strike faster. It's kind of weird. So I don't exactly want to rely on her either. Celestial can guard bypass, but only in grasslands, forest, and mountains. And then I think that's all my assassins. Yeah, so, and the only... Oh, actually, Petseer can also guard bypass, but only against male characters. And then you can technically guard bypass with Narm against flyers or anyone that has low mobility. Unfortunately, in order to apply low mobility, you usually have to hit the target first anyway. So the only way she would ever get that advantage is if we use someone like Rosen Seal's Frost Dragon Breath to debuff someone that has 3 movement down to 2. And that's about your only hope. But for right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and stick with Narm. She's long-legged. She has access to Sprint, which is an attack buff and a mobility buff that works for pretty much everyone, even people with 5 mobility already. In situations where someone does want to bring in Vincent or Wetham or Ares or whatever, Narm might be a slight deterrent because she can guard bypass with that. And then, depending on what opponents we're going up against, I can always swap her skills for that passive that does additional mobility on top of her talent, and she could possibly do some kiting action with that, which will be kind of interesting. I believe her talent debuff can't be dispelled, or at the least it's infinite duration, which can be really nasty if we can get it up and running. But we'll have to kind of just wait and see how that plays out next week. But overall, I had some initial growing pains with this box. Obviously, I had to get used to fighting against people that are actually more my level. And there was even one box I literally just said no. It was early in the morning. I didn't want to fight it. I just gave up immediately. I didn't want to deal with it. I did get to use Silvaria on one of my losses. That was against Werner, unfortunately. And essentially, Helena attacking into a riposte Werner ended up losing, and then I followed up with Silvaria, which of course riposte has infinite counterattack range. So I was able to kill with Silvaria on the follow-up, but she was also killed as a result of the counterattack. So I do not like fighting Werner at all. He might be someone I have to just ban early, just because he's that much of a problem. But for right now, I am still summoning on the exclusive banner to try to get more Alicias. I've been getting mostly Silvarias. I did get one off banner, and my SSR rank, even my SR rank rate has been really bad. So even like my efforts are not even giving me that many time shards. So it's been a bit rough. But if I get Alicia to 5 stars, I'll be pretty happy. Which, I mean, she's gonna get there pretty soon anyway. So enough rambling from me. Sorry if this video is a little long. I am Theta Prestito. This was Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 10. I'll see you guys later.